Welcome. Scott here. Today I am bringing you another Black Clover mobile video. In this video, I will be covering on one of the key mages who is deemed as most vital support for Black Asta, the Queen of the Witches or Witch Queen. In general, Witch Queen is a power attribute type healer. Despite being a healer by nature, she also offers offensive capabilities in the form of continuous damage instances or damage over time debuffs. Her special allows Black Asta to get into anti-magic state instantly, which is one of the key reasons that make her one of the must-have units for those who have invested in Black Asta. However, despite being a healer, she don't really heal effectively until you unlock her enhancement passives. Her skill 1 is a single target attack that inflicts 2 turns bleed while healing the defender mage that scales off her own HP. Her skill 2 has a 50% chance of inflicting 3 types of continuous damage instances. It can also inflict reduced HP recovery effect level 3 if you have equipped her with her skill page. Her special will grant the party 50% lifesteal buff for 2 turns and while inflicting bleed on all enemies. The special will also drains the HP of the ally with the highest defense stat to 30%. Black Asta, who usually have the highest defense stats, will activate anti-magic once his HP drop below 40%. However, this will be a drawback for anyone who isn't Black Asta. Her combo attack will heal her partner mage with 60% of their HP. With her passives, it helps to grant defender mage additional defensive buffs while unlocking her healing utility. Her LR passive allows her to grant defender mages the Crimson Blood buff at the start of the wave if you have used a mono-red team comp. In other words, this buff can only be granted to power attribute defenders like Black Asta, Swimsuit Asta, Veto, or SR Asta. Crimson Blood will grants the unit immortality buff once their HP drop to 30%. At LR plus 2, if there is a continuous damage instances presented on the enemies, she will grant passive healing that scales off 10% of her own max HP for every continuous damage instances present on the enemies. At LR plus 5, on top of passive heals that she gains for every continuous damage instance present on the opponents, the lifesteal buff from her special will be upgraded to 100% from 50%. Her skill page will give her passive with 40% chance of granting 70% increased defense buff to all allies. Generally, a base copy of Witch Queen is sufficient for her to do her role. Other than using her skill page, you can give her HP boosting skill page to boost her healing capabilities or attack up skill page to boost her damage from her continuous instances. So should I pull for her? In my opinion, there isn't a general consensus on whether to pull for a unit. It really depends on whether you are a free-to-play or having a vast roster already. If you have Black Asta, she is very useful to trigger anti-magic for Black Asta. Most of the time, once Black Asta activates his anti-magic, he will wipe the floor. If you don't have Black Asta, her uses will be very limited. In JP or KR, there are continuous damage instances mechanic updates. This will probably improve her viability for future team comps without Black Asta, since her skill 2 has a 50% chance of inflicting 3 types of continuous damage instances: burn, bleed, or poison. For her gear set, as she is a healer, the 3 small magic attack with 4 HP pieces is the ideal gear set that you should go with. Do use the advanced gear pieces like HP, defense, and speed to assist her efficiency and healing utility. If you don't have her LR plus 2 passive, you might want to consider using a full advanced speed set gear, since you will probably be using her as an anti-magic bot. To succeed in arena with her, it is highly recommended to get her to LR plus 2 minimally for the passive heals. With the overview covered, I proceed to discuss more about her skills. Now let me go through her kit. First thing first, she is not a damage dealer. So don't feel she isn't good if you don't see big damage output from her. In fact, she helped to improve your party survivability with her healing and supplement the damage with her continuous instances damage. Most of time, you will use her to support Black Asta. But if you have unlocked her LR plus 2, she can become a powerful healer if you have allies who also apply continuous damage instances in the party. Likewise, she will be negated if the enemy has immunity to continuous damage instances. As a recap, continuous damage instances covers burn, bleed, poison, and electrocute. To upgrade skills, you need to use will shards. Will shards can be bought at the world regional shops monthly. If you upgrade your world reputation to level 2, you will unlock the option to buy the highest tier upgrade material. If you haven't done so, I recommend you to start leveling up the reputation level by doing bond patrol or memory hall fights for that specific world. You can also get skills upgrade materials at your squad shop if you have joined a squad. You can buy them weekly with guild medals or monthly with guild raid coins. So try to level up and join a guild. If you have spending power, you can buy skills enhancement chests at the premium Black Crystal shop. Now let me go through her skill set. Her skill 1 Grasp of Blood is a single target HP attack that inflicts 2-turn bleed continuous damage instance on the target. It will also heals any defender mage present in the party with 15% of her own max HP. Without her LR+2 passive, this is the only button that gives her healing utility. Her skill 2 Chamber of Blood will attack all enemies while having a 50% chance of inflicting 3 types of continuous damage instances: poison, bleed and burn for 2 turns. If you have her skill page, the ability will also inflict reduced HP recovery received debuff level 4 for 2 turns. Her special Blood Stain of Destruction is an AoE attacking ability. It will inflict bleed on all enemies for 2 turns. It will grant a 50% lifesteal buff to all allies, but in expense of that, the unit with the highest defense stats will get their HP reduced to 30% of their own HP. This is the ability that allow Black Asta to trigger his anti-magic instantly, however it could backfire and become a deadly button if you drain someone's HP that you don't intend to. Her combined attack allows her to grant her partner mage a HP recovery that equals to 60% of their own max HP. Upgrade the skill to max will bring the HP healing to 100%. Before I continue to talk more about her skill upgrade priorities, let me give you a quick update on how the continuous mechanic instances works. Bleed will result the affected target to take damage at the start of their turn. The damage will scales off 5% of Witch Queen's maximum HP. The same principle also applies to poison. Burn will result the target to take damage at the start of their turn. The damage will scales the total of 20% of both Witch Queen attack and magic attack stats. You can stack all instances of continuous damage up to 3 stack. Whenever you use a skill, you will apply a stack. Understanding these mechanics is important since you know what type of gear sets and substats that you should target for her. To understand how her LR+2 passive healing works, here is a quick explanation. Her passive healing will trigger when she takes a turn. If there are a stack of bleed debuff on all 4 opponents, she will give a heal that equates to 40% of her max HP. If there is a stack of burn, bleed and poison on all 4 opponents, she will give the party a heal that equates to 120% of her max HP. So you get the gist of how potent her healing could be? This is the main reason why it is important to make sure you invest her to LR+2 enhancements if you can afford the resources to do so. Upgrading her skill will result her doing more damage when uses them. Although it is important for her, I would suggest to focus on completing your key damage dealers first, for example Black Asta, before you start to divert resources in her skills. Even it is not an emergency requirement to invest in her skills off the bat. Investing her skills can be a differentiating factor where you can finish up the boss or your arena opponents. Now let's cover on her skill page. Her skill page allows you to have a 40% chance of granting a 70% increased defense buff to all allies for 2 turns. The trigger will occur when the Witch Queen gets hit from a unit that have inflicted with bleed. At max enhancement levels, the probability will be upgraded to 100% while the buff effect will also be upgraded to 85% as well. With her skill page, her skill 2 will inflict a reduced HP recovery received level 4 debuff on all enemies. This could come in clutch in PvP fights. Unless you are targeting the upper leagues and have big spending power, I won't recommend you to chase too hard for dupes. You can end up hurting your resources to pull for the upcoming units. In general, the skill page is good since you probably will be running Black Asta and Witch Queen most of the time. It is highly recommended to get if you are able to. If you don't have her skill page, you can either focus on skill pages that boost her utility or buffing up her HP. For skill page replacement, you can use either one of the following skill page to boost her HP pool, the Adventurer's Journal or SR Charmy skill page. You can also boost attacker allies' HP by giving her Clover Academy Noelle skill page. You can also make her more tankier by boosting her own defense with the Moonlight Necklace skill page. Personally, I will suggest you to use Moonlight Necklace over HP skill page if your Witch Queen don't have her level 2 enhancements. If she is at base and you bring her, you probably be using her as an anti-magic bot. Now let's cover on her talents. Although she is a healer, she is actually an continuous damage instance debuffer. I suggest giving her Battle Frenzy for a 2.5% rate up to 5 times per wave and increased magic attack for a 7% increase in magic attack. For Craved Stone, you can give her attack talent Craved Stone to boost her damage for her damage over time instances since her burn scales of those stats. For the defense and critical resistance part, I will recommend you to go for the Endurance defensive talent, which gives her 4% defense and 2% critical resistance, up to 5 times per wave, along with the increased max HP talent for a 5% increase in max HP for stronger healing utility. For the Craved Stone, you will want to give her the defense talent Craved Stone to boost her defense. In the support talent wheel, you can choose the increased damage resistance for the 10% damage reduction. For the other talent, you can pair it with either Mage's Blessing or Swiftness. Mage Blessing allows her to have a 20% chance of cool down her skill 2, which could allow her to get access to use her skill 2 faster. You can also opt for a more reliable Swiftness, which grants SP +1 buff when the Witch Queen has less than 2 special points. This will come handy if you want her to use her special more often. Personally, I would recommend the Swiftness over Mage Blessing since you want Witch Queen to use her special as soon as possible so that her special can allow Black Asta to get into anti-magic more often. As you will probably be using Witch Queen with Black Asta very often, you might want to consider to give her the Resolution passive, as it will allow her gain debuff immunity once Black Asta applies his total defense buff with his skill 2. Black Asta needs to have his skill page to apply total defense. For Talent Seed, you want to give her the HP talent Craved Stone to boost her HP pool or Speed Stone so that she takes more turn. It is worth noting that the Witch Queen's passive heals is trigger when she takes a turn. So for PvE, you might to prioritize speed over the HP talent stone. If you have limited stamina budget to grind for talent seeds, prioritize on maxing out her green support wheel first, followed by her blue defense talent wheel. Depending your Witch Queen enhancements level, if she is at base, the support talent wheel and the base passives from the attack and defense talent wheel will be good enough. If you want her to be your mainstay in arena PvP fight, you want her LR+2 passive for her passive heal, and that will require you to max out all her talent wheels. Now let's focus on her gear sets. Generally, you want Witch Queen to have as many turns as possible to apply her continuous damage instances with her skills while having a high HP pool to allow her to boost her healing utility. For gear sets, there are 2 builds for her. As more turns is important for her, the secret of the Deep Sea gear pieces are high priority gear pieces that you will want to equip on her. Having 2 pieces of that gear set will give a 5% speed buff for 2 turns at the start of the wave. This is a must-have gear piece if you intend to use Witch Queen in PvP fights. If you want to make her really fast, you can give her the full set, which permanent boost her speed stat by 5. In the speed gear set, for the other 2 pieces you either give her the small attack and defense pieces from the Great Merchant set for 30% defense buff or 2 pieces from the Iron Maiden set for 7% HP buff. Defense buff will work better in arena while HP buff only boosts the healing utility. If she cannot survive, she won't have the turn to use her special to allow Black Asta to trigger anti-magic or take her turn to trigger her passive heals, provided you have given her a level 2 enhancements. You can also use the Scorching Sky HP set if you are unable to get the Iron Maiden's advanced HP gear pieces. Generally, Witch Queen ideal enhancements level will be minimally LR+2. Thus to bulk her HP up, you can go for the 3 small attack pieces with 4 large HP pieces as shown on the screen. I opted to use 1 HP set, 1 defense set and 1 speed set combination. For substats, you can focus on HP percent, defense percent, magic attack percent and lastly, critical resistance percent. If your Witch Queen is base or enhancement level 1, she don't have access to her passive heal and limited healing utility from her skill 1. You will be primarily using her as an anti-magic bot for Black Asta. The full speed set with 2 defense piece or the 3 small attack and 4 large defense piece will be a more optimal gear set for her. In my previous video about Black Asta, the combo of him and Witch Queen has a proven track record in tackling endgame PvE content. With him fully and build using the correct gear sets, you can use him to clear the game's hardest endgame content like the Hall of Illusions. I have also used Black Asta to dominate the recent limited Hall of Illusions event which could be returning in the coming month. You have also seen me using him extensively with Witch Queen to clear the recent Raids event. You can refer to the videos on my channel for the demonstration if you are interested. You probably have heard a lot on the combination between Black Asta and Witch Queen. The Witch Queen is the prime support for Black Asta, who can finally unleash his full power from the start of the battle, leading to a much more aggressive playstyle. She is also very strong in PvE content for the same reason, allowing Asta to nuke when you need him to, making a great pair for Hall of Illusion stages or bosses. Considering her reliance on Black Asta to be worth running, you should look at your unit box and decide how much of an impact she would make. Being able to tap in anti-magic on demand is a powerful ability. I hope that for those who have just started during the half anniversary event, have select Witch Queen from the 999 reroll summon. However, similar to Black Asta, Witch Queen also needs to have LR+2 passive for her passive heals for PvP unless you intend to use her as an anti-magic spam bot for PvE content with her base copy. In doing clearing endgame PvE content, having Black Asta and Witch Queen is not sufficient. You still need to bring critical rate buffers like Sally or Finral, attack buffers like Swimsuit Gauche or Gifso or damage mitigation support for survival with Ceremony Charlotte, Fate of Thread Vanessa or William. If you want to do a nuke run, I would highly recommend you to get Sally unless you want to depend on 50% chance from Finral's critical rate buff activation from his special. If you have played PvP in Black Clover Mobile for a while, you will know how destructive and scary Black Asta can be. Upon his anti-magic activation, it could take a skill 2 attack that wipe out your entire party. Teams comp in using Black Asta involving in using the infamous mono-red team comp that consists of Black Asta, Witch Queen, Party Costume Charmy and Golden Dawn Yuno. Golden Dawn Yuno can shut down opposition mages with his silence debuffs while drain SP if you have his skill page enhanced to a certain level. Witch Queen and Black Asta will just do their stuff. As mentioned earlier, you will need Witch Queen at LR+2 for her heal passive for every damage over time debuffs active on the opposition. Example of damage over time debuffs are Burn, Bleed, Poison and Electrocute. The last member is a flexible member and you can replace her with any of the mages that shown on the screen. Party Costume Charmy is probably the best fit because she can heal herself off her own attacks with her skill page while her pumpkin pie revolves around the opposition party like a hot potato where it could eventually trigger a burn bomb that could wipe out your opposition before they act. If you have Black Asta and Witch Queen, you can consider taking Clover Academy Rill from the gateway for the last member of the infamous mono-red team comp. Rill's special allows a mage take an instant turn or 2 consecutive turns if their SP is full when you use his special on that unit. If you want to know more about Rill, I suggest you to check out that video. If you intend to use Witch Queen for defensive setup, make sure that she is at least LR+2 unless you pair her with speed buffers like Finral or mobility buffers like Rill or Valtos. Player usually uses this with Red Charlotte. This is because Charlotte has a marked debuff that allows your units to take consecutive turns once they have killed the target. For non-mono team comps, you can go with the following team comps that I have shown on the screen. It is also worth noting, in non-mono red team comp, Witch Queen doesn't guarantee Black Asta the Crimson Blood buff, so you can end up pulling your Black Asta in danger if you activate it while your opposition mages are ready their specials. I would recommend to do defensive presets in your arena team if you want to use Witch Queen in your arena defense team. Likewise, if your Black Asta is killed too fast, she will end up draining the HP of the next highest defense unit, which make the odds of your party getting squash even higher. In JP or KR, there is a change in the mechanics, specifically the enhancement of bleed mechanics. This has expanded Witch Queen viability as a PvP unit for a bleed trigger unit. However, people will use the Black Asta because Black Asta is still that good for PvP.